Hi everybody, welcome to Dubs Talk Live presented by FitAid. It stinks doing a show after an injury, especially when we don't know the severity of that injury. Steph Curry hurt his left shoulder, left the game in the third quarter, and what we know right now is that he's going to have an MRI tomorrow. That's it. So with Warriors insider Monte Poole, I'm Kerith, Burke. Monte, it's kind of hard not to think like, oh my goodness, worst case scenario. We don't know yet. But should this be an injury that keeps Steph out of play for a while, whatever a while means, what kind of impact is this going to have for the Warriors?
Well, just based on the fact that, the way he went off the left shoulder, the way he went off the court and did not return, there is obviously some legitimate concern. This doesn't feel like I'll be back in the next game on Friday against Philadelphia. Doesn't feel like one of those injuries. So until they get the MRI test, they won't know whether it's going to be a 1-week injury or a 2-week injury or something worse. Yeah. But I think it's safe to say that, this is not something that's just going to go away in a day or two, just like with Andrew Wiggins and his adductor. That wasn't going to go in a day or two, and he's already missed 3 games. So if you're the Warriors, you have a situation now where you have Klay Thompson, who doesn't play back-to-backs. They have one next week. You have Andrew, when you don't know when he'll be back quite yet. And you have Steph, who you don't know even the extent of his injuries just yet. So it's a tough situation for them right now. This road trip meant so much to this team and where they're headed. And now there is just a lot of haze, a lot of grayness, a lot of uncertainty about where things are. Yeah,
the Warriors have started the six-game road trip 0-2. Their road record is 2-13. They are 14-15. overall, and now this Steph Curry injury. So some things that are looking pretty tough for the team. Hate to do it, but let's see the video if you haven't seen it yourself. This is the third quarter play where Steph got hurt. Looked pretty innocuous, right? It was just a reach in there on Jalen Smith, but you could tell Steph was hurt right away, and that left arm kind of hanging down. He touched his shoulder right away. You could tell that he was in pain. Now, Steph went to the bench initially, but then he went to the tunnel. He went in the back with Dr. Rick Celebrini. So thinking about this, oh gosh, and then he got run into by Smith there. But there it is. This is a major moment for the Warriors this season.
I will say this about Steph Curry, though. He is a really tough dude. And if he has to leave a game, it's not good at all. This is not, and I've seen Stephen Curry come back into games when you thought he wouldn't be back. So for him to leave and then to say he's done for the night, in a game that was still kind of winnable. They'd gotten back into the game. That tells me that, it's going to be tough. And again, they're back below 500. They needed this trip to go well for them to get back to 500 on the way home. See the Grizzlies on Christmas Day. And so, right now, I mean, there's got to be a sense of, I don't want to say depression, but certainly a sense of, okay, where do we go from here? Maybe a little bit of snake-bitten feeling,
Yes.
It's like Wiggins goes down, and before he comes back, Steph goes down. It's a tough time for them now, and we'll see how they weather it.
I wish we were talking about different Steph storylines, because he dominated this game. 38 points in 30 minutes. That's when he had to leave the game. At halftime, he was up to 27 points. The rest of the team combined had 27 points. So this was the Steph Curry show. Now, there's another story within this. We have been talking about how sometimes Steph cannot carry all of this load. It was a game that he was, I hate to use the expression, putting on his shoulders, carrying the team. This kind of play is going to be unsustainable for Steph. So 11 of 19, he had 5 3-pointers. He was trying to will the team to win this game because the Warriors had an awful second quarter, but they came out differently in the third quarter. This was a game that they desperately wanted to win, and they showed a lot of fight tonight.
I mean, the third quarter was tremendous. I mean, but I think it was a response to the second quarter, which was just horrible. I mean, there's no way to put it.
47 Pacers points.
They shot 70%.
Okay, can't win like
from
that.
3.
You're playing uphill from there. They had, the Pacers were 9 of 13 in that quarter. The second quarter.
They shot 69.6% overall, 69 through 2 from 3. And when a team does that, it tells you a lot about your defense. There were a lot of open shots. These weren't shots that were contested and they were shooting over. They were getting wide open shots in that quarter, and the Warriors, it got 47 points. That's the most points the Warriors have given up in any quarter this season, and we've seen some bad quarters. So this was, it looked a lot like a team that just had decided this was not going to be their game. And then to see them come back in the third quarter as if, oh, no, we're not dead yet.
Right.
You know, it was like, okay. You know, and they come out and they go on a 14-0 run and they go on a 9-2 run. Next thing you know, they're within 3. So, and then, of course, shortly after that, Steph goes out. Yeah. And you know once Steph goes out that it's going to be tough. But you know what? They did show a lot of fight. They kept this a game into the final seconds. So, you know, it's a good showing after halftime.
I want to know what happened at halftime, because actually going into the locker room, we saw that video of Steph like putting his hands on his knees. Bruce Frazier came over to talk to him, the guy that they call Q. It looked like he and Steph just needed to talk for a moment. It looked like Steph was frustrated. I think he needed to talk it out with somebody before going into that locker room. But if I can imagine what was said, it's, guys, we can't give up. Why don't we come out? Why don't we try? What do we have to lose? We need to win this game. We need to win one on the road. And then the Warriors opened with a 19-4 run in that third quarter. Okay, that's enough to put the Pacers back like, whoa, maybe we don't have this. Yeah,
I mean, you know, the Warriors, keep in mind, this is a team that won a championship 6 months ago. And there's an element of pride there that doesn't always surface. But in that third quarter, you saw that. You saw them responding to what happened in the second quarter when they played awfully, and they played with a certain intensity. There was a lineup change. They brought in Kuminga to play center and instead of Looney. That sped things up a little bit, allowed a little bit more defensive flexibility. But in the end, it got them back into the game. And Steve Kerr said he thought it was mostly the mentality. They played with conviction. And that second quarter, they didn't have any of that. So, you know, if they play like that, they'll win some games. But there have been too many games where they play like that second quarter, where you're just thinking, what are they doing? What are they not? I mean, you can see what they're not doing, the mistakes they're making. So, you know, sometimes teams respond when they're without their stars. So I think we'll get a look at what's inside these Warriors in these upcoming games.
All right, so just to add it all up, there was no Andrew Wiggins tonight. He has the adductor strain. I believe the Warriors said we'll get an update on Thursday about where he's at. So no Wiggs, no Clay on the second night of a back-to-back. Steph Curry goes out in the third quarter with the left shoulder injury. He's going to have an MRI. And then Draymond Green was ejected in this game, picked up 2 quick technicals, and that's the moment where I was like, okay, I think the wheels have just fallen off. And it didn't, actually. The Warriors got within 3 really late. But what did you think about the timing of this Draymond Green ejection? I thought it was pretty unfortunate that he was the most veteran person on the floor, a moment where if the Warriors are going to try to win this game, and they've been playing like they wanted to, he was the guy who needed to organize things. He's so important to the defense and communication. And I don't know if he let emotions get the best of him or what.
Yeah, we've seen that happen before. The emotions get the best of him. I will say 2 things about this. On one hand, you know, Draymond is a leader, and this was a lapse in leadership. On the other hand, he was having a terrible game. He was not playing well.
This was a tough night.
I mean, he had 1 point. You know, he had 6 turnovers and 3 assists. He was making these crazy passes, and I mean, you thought when Draymond goes out that, okay, well, now the defense is going to go. But the Warriors kept going. In the fourth quarter, they were still playing. They were within 3 points in the fourth quarter without Draymond. So, I mean, there would have been nights when Draymond leaving would be disastrous. Tonight, it wasn't. It wasn't, because he wasn't playing well.
Pretty interesting.
It wasn't.
Pretty interesting.
It wasn't.
All right. As we look at this game and whether the Warriors can withstand some injuries, it makes me think of some larger things about roster construction. We're going to talk about that when Dubs Talk Live, presented by Fit Aid, returns. There are some dates you need to know about, and one of them is tomorrow.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Fit Aid, the #1 post-workout recovery drink in America. Try now and visit drinkfitaid.com.
We're going to join on YouTube. I just clicked the link for YouTube, so let me get this ad going through. All right. Andrew says, I'm really tired of losing. We don't look like a championship team right now. Yeah,
you're not a championship team right
under
now.
500.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah. D says, Draymond was not playing well. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, you know, and to make this situation feel even worse is that, you know, there was the thought that maybe the win over the Celtics meant like they had turned a corner. You know, that, they just beat the best team in the league. And then they go on the road and get blown out in Milwaukee. And then they go to Indiana tonight and put up a fight for in the second half after a quarter when they just,
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things we don't know about this team. And there's many instances, entire quarters, and there's been a few entire games when they don't look like champions. And in that third quarter tonight, they did.
Yep.
And in the fourth quarter, without Steph, without Draymond, without Clay, and without Wiggs, they did.
Actually, and Looney didn't play, so none of your starters.
Yeah.
You had none of your starters in the final.
But the guys fought, and I think that's one of the things Steve Kerr's been looking for from the guys on the bench is the phrase he used a few weeks ago was grit. Mm-hmm. We don't have enough grit. Mm-hmm. And the guys on the team last year that were off the bench, that's what they were about.
Yeah.
They were all guys who had to fight their way into the league, one way or the other, G League, South America, whatever. Yeah. They had to get to the league the hard way.
Yeah.
And most of the guys now are first-round draft picks. So it's a different route for them, and so grit comes a little harder for those guys, but you saw it tonight.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live, presented by FitAid. All right, Monte, Poole, you were talking about how difficult that second quarter was. And when we look at who was on the floor, I can't help but notice that Ty Jerome was a -20, Ooh. Anthony Lamb a -18, 2 points apiece for those guys. There are some funky rotations, given the Warriors didn't have all of their pieces tonight. But in that second quarter, there was a correlation between who was on the floor. And I feel like this has been a theme for this season, or at least a question. Are the Warriors relying on their two-way players too much?
Well, not on Ty Jerome. I mean, he hasn't played much. He played tonight and did not play well.
Why was he in before Moses Moody?
That's a fair question to ask.
Yeah.
And you watch the game, and I think Steve Kerr thinks that, I think his thinking was that, Ty is probably a little bit better at organizing guys. He has more point guard mentality about him. But I just thought that he didn't play well at all, and Moses did play well. Mm-hmm. So don't be surprised if the next game, those minutes that went to Ty Jerome go to Moses.
I feel like Moses deserves that, and he's the one that the organization has more stock in, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah, they drafted him.
Yeah.
And they look at him as part of their future. So I think tonight he would have been better out there than Ty Jerome was. Mm-hmm. But, Steve has his reasons, and, a lot of us don't agree with that one, and so, but again, I know Steve does makes a lot of decisions based on how a guy's playing. I think, and he'll look at this game and he'll think, Moses deserves another chance to play on Friday, and Ty Jerome, back to his two-way spot, maybe inactive, and Anthony Lamb, who has been, a pretty good two-way player for them so far this season, tonight was not good. Yeah. At either end.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Ty Jerome hasn't gotten minutes in a long time, and this is maybe where Steve Kerr's heart gets the best of him. You throw a guy in cold. That's kind of
maybe he can give you a punch.
Yeah, he likes to do that with the guys at the end of the bench. He
right.
doesn't want them to languish. He's like, hey, I see you. Let's throw them a bone. That bone did not pay off tonight, and it stands out when he doesn't go to Moses Moody first, somebody who's important for the future of the franchise. And then you see what Moses does with his minutes. Moses is making a case. Yeah,
no, Moses played well tonight. He came off the bench, he made a three-pointer, a corner three immediately.
Yep.
And so
that's so hard to do.
Yeah,
stay ready.
He came in and he did that. He was -2 for 23 minutes, and so you saw Ty Jerome played 13 minutes, and so after Ty Jerome played poorly, I think, Steve said, let's give Moses a shot. And the fact that the Warriors played so hard in the fourth quarter, they played them even in the fourth quarter, 32-32, and Moses was out there for most of all of that. So Kuminga played, pretty well during those stretches. So I just think that, the rotations are a mess right now, and the absence of Steph Curry, the absence of Andrew Wiggins is going to make it worse. And Jordan Poole has been slumping. These last couple of games, he hasn't been good. He was 6 of 17 shooting in Milwaukee, 6 of 8 of 22 tonight. So if you don't have Wiggins, you need somebody else to step up and score. Tonight they didn't have Wiggins. They didn't have Clay. They really needed Jordan. Yeah. And again, he has this tendency to dribble too much and dribble into traffic, and then you have a turnover. And tonight he had 4 turnovers. So.
Yeah.
You don't want to see a guy have 5 assists, 4 turnovers. That's not a good ratio.
Well, I was looking at Poole's last 4 games, so it goes back to the previous Pacers game. So he's shooting 40% from the field, 23% from 3 coming into this game in the last 4, and then he was 1 of 7. So you could see him trying to attack as well. He took 22 shots in this game, but he's upset he's not getting foul calls. I think he's just upset about a lot of things. Still, he arrived at 20 points. This was the second most on the team, but Jordan Poole is struggling. All right, guys, I promised you some dates. One of these dates is tomorrow, because when we interact with fans, especially on the internet, especially with Twitter, the word trade comes up. Take a look at some of these dates. Tomorrow is the one where the free agents who are signed in the offseason are eligible to be shopped around. So we're not saying the Warriors might take part in that, right? They signed Dante, they signed J-Mike in the offseason.
Right.
But if trade stuff is going to start percolating in the league, could be interesting if the Warriors want to be in those conversations about roster construction. Do they have enough to support, Steph and Clay and Draymond in their primes, and see if they can make a run at another championship?
Yeah, the Warriors are very, 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 very.
How many
very,
varies is
very
that? How many varies? How many varies?
Ambitious franchise.
Okay.
And Joe Lake and his group, they're paying a lot of money for this team.
Yeah.
The payroll's big, the luxury tax is massive, and they don't want to be 41-41.
No.
They don't want to be the 7th seed. And what you have right now is a team that's languishing around 8th and 9th and 10th place. I know it's a logjam. A lot of between 3rd and 10th. There's a lot of traffic there, but they're not playing well, and so this team is not going to win a playoff series against a lot of teams playing like this. Now, play like they did against the Celtics.
Yeah.
Beat anybody.
Yeah. But
maybe not Milwaukee, but maybe beat anybody.
Yeah.
But so that's where you talk about the trade, because you're thinking, what do we not have? Well, the main thing you look at is you look at the size. And at the beginning of the season, they were hoping that James Wiseman, with his radius, would be able to offset that. But he's still in the G League. He's playing better now. He's playing with more force. He's playing with more of an edge, which is what they need him to play with. So if he plays like that, he'll be back in the league with the Warriors or somewhere. He'll be good enough to be in the NBA and be getting regular minutes the way he's playing right now. But I don't know if the Warriors look at him and say, okay, he's going to be the solution. I don't know it's been unclear where they are with that, and there is a belief among some people that he could be traded. And so you look at that, and what do you want to get in return? You want a guy who is steady and firm in the paint. Doesn't be spectacular. You're not Joel Embiid, or
what can the Warriors afford?
Well, if they make any trade, the money has to be close to make a trade.
Yeah.
So, they're not going to take on a bunch of salary, because the league, you can't trade a guy making $5 million for a guy making $30 million. You can't do that. It's got to be, if you're going to trade a guy making $5 million, no. You can't. A guy making $5 million, you got to trade 6 guys making $5 million for one guy making $30 million.
Okay.
The numbers have to be really close.
All right.
But again, you look at that, but I think whoever they do go after, and again, they're not aggressively looking right now, but they are certainly open to the possibility. But one thing they are looking for is someone who can bring a level of defense that is needed, because this team's defense has not been good most of the season. It was pretty good on Saturday against the Celtics. And I think if you're in the Warriors front office, you're thinking, okay, maybe we found something. But then you watch the next 2 games, you go, well, maybe we didn't find something.
Yeah.
So that's where they are.
The Warriors have an open roster spot. And I know, or at least I'm pretty sure, they're not going to touch Andre. The fact that he came back means that he's here for a reason. That was a mutual decision.
Yeah.
But Andre hasn't played yet. He's not going to play until the back half of the season, which means probably January at the earliest.
If they traded Andre, he would quit.
Oh, absolutely. No, I don't think they are. But I'm just saying,
you've
got this 15th spot. You've got a guy who's not playing. Let's call Andre in the 14th spot. You've got these two-way players who are getting some unusual time just via
Lamb's getting regular time, and Jerome is getting the occasional.
He needed that.
Yeah.
And then you have your number 2 pick in Santa Cruz. So there are a lot of ways where the Warriors are kind of in a position. This isn't what we thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, James is making good money this year. He'll make $12, $13 million next year.
Okay.
And so you're getting in the money there, and that's where you can look at a guy and say, okay, he can make the money work for a guy who's making a decent salary. Now, we can always throw out names, but
throw out some names, Monte. Throw out some names, Monte.
well, the most popular name, and it makes sense, is Jakob Poole.
Okay.
The guy from the Spurs. The Spurs are in last place. They're not going anywhere. Craig Popovich is saying, we're just learning how to play basketball.
Yeah.
He knows that they're rebuilding. And so rebuilding teams often will say, you know what, here's a guy that we don't need.
Sure, we're listening.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
So there's a very, very good chance that Poole will be traded this season. And the Warriors what he brings to a team is something the Warriors could use. He brings a certain toughness, a certain defensive mentality. Again, not flashy, not spectacular, but does the little things the right way.
Okay.
And he's a long body. He's 6'11", 7 feet. So you bring a guy like that in to your team, and then maybe there will be a moment or two, if you don't trade Wiseman, which they might, you can look at that and say, okay, it helps Looney, it helps Wiseman. And JaMychal Green is another guy who, it's not, tonight he showed some signs of life.
He did, 3 of 3 from 3, had a burst.
If he can do that, he might keep a job. But there have been nights when I thought, man, this JaMychal Green experiment is not going so well. And if the Warriors, if you're a free agent that comes here and you don't play well, you won't make it through the season. Yeah. Brad Wanamaker, remember him? They brought him in, and he didn't make it through the season because it was like he just wasn't cutting it. Yeah. A few years before that, Jason Thompson, power forward guy, he came in, didn't make it through the season. So JaMychal Green so some shades of that with JaMychal at times. Okay. Tonight, he looked good, but we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Also on that screen, you saw the big trade deadline was February 9th. All right, when we come back on Dubs Talk Live, let me think about what we're talking about. Maybe some Dante. Let's talk about some Dante. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by FitAid, the #1 post-workout recovery drink in America. Try now and visit drinkfitaid.com.
We kind of touched on it. I needed to flow with what Monte was saying. So how about some
That's
Dante?
Fine.
Yeah. As far as like a good free agent pickup, I would say Dante's
been pretty good. Been pretty solid.
Yeah. Shannon says definitely not trading Andre. That would be the wildest thing. I totally agree.
He's not going
I'm just saying
no.
When you need bodies on the floor, especially if injuries are mounting, the fact that Andre is still dealing with things with his body and is not ready to play, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, and there's been no sign of when he will be ready to play.
Right.
And, Steve Kerr's been consistently saying that, we just want him to be ready for the postseason.
Yeah.
Well,
that's it's like back half of the season, but there's few players that would get this kind of allowance of not playing, but being an important person in the locker room to teach guys in other ways.
Yes.
So it's a very special case.
Yes. I mean, when they signed him, they knew that this could be the case.
But if they had Andre from like 5 years ago, that would be perfect. That's the kind of person that they need.
Yeah, no, he'd be good for this team. He would fit right in that second unit.
Yeah.
And they may not have to make that Draymond move with the second unit because Andre would have been there to do that.
Yeah.
But you look at it right now, and it's you want Andre out there on the court in any instance if he can contribute.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't know.
There is I can't even touch that comment, but I got to show you that one later. Okay.
People getting racy out there.
I see somebody in here who made the comment that Dante is the only new player that's made a difference. I recognize that name. Thank you for watching. Shannon says, I agree, Kerith. Dante was a good pickup. Let's talk about Dante.
Yep.
Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. Some big moments for Dante Divincenzo. I think this road trip means a lot to him too. He had sort of a homecoming against the Bucks, the team that drafted him. Dante wants to play really well. 8 rebounds tonight stands out. 15 points as well. This was the 5th consecutive game where Dante had 7 or more rebounds. As far as a free agent pickup in the offseason, Dante's been showing his worth.
Yeah, his shot has kind of come and gone, but tonight it was pretty good for the most part, his 3-point shot. But he's going to bring it every night. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about his level of intensity. He's going to play defense, pretty good point of attack defender. Again, people want to compare guys to Gary Payton II. That's not fair. That's not fair. I mean, Gary is one of one. I mean, there's guys who are great defenders, but Gary is a defensive game changer. And there just aren't many of those in the league, period.
Yeah.
So, and he's yet to play a game.
I know, that breaks my heart.
So yeah, I mean, the Blazers don't know what he's going to be able to do for them, but he's supposed to be close. We'll see about that. But Dante is a guy who, you know, you can put him on a scorer and know you're going to get a good defensive effort, you know, and I think that's something to be said for that. But he's just a guy who can give you some things you need defensively. He's going to rebound, like you see that, and he's going to be able to get Jordan Poole off the ball, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad, because when Jordan's on the ball, sometimes he wants to dribble it too much, and that leads to trouble. So I just think, yeah, Dante's been a plus.
Yep.
He's been a plus.
Yep.
JaMychal's been sort of a plus minus. You know, he's had a couple of moments, but he's struggled more than he has actually been, I'd say, succeeded. So, but I look at Dante and say, yeah, that's been a good pickup for them so far. And I think as the season goes on, I think he'll be better.
38 minutes for Dante. He was in the starting lineup tonight. I just think about his career in the NBA. So he was on that championship Bucks team. Then he was traded to the Kings.
Yes.
Then he had the ankle injury.
Yep.
So it's sort of like top of the world, oh, a trade. Oh, shoot, I'm injured. This means a lot to Dante to get what he would call a second chance, especially with the championship team. He wants to show. Yeah, go ahead.
Because he signed a 2-year contract, but the second year he can opt out.
Okay.
So if he has a great year, he can decide whether he wants to come back for the Warriors at a set salary or test the market.
Yeah.
So
that's a position of power for a player.
Yes, yes. I mean, in other words, he's betting on himself to have that option next year.
Yep.
He can come back and play with these guys if it goes well. He can see if it goes well for him individually, he can go someplace else and maybe get a bigger salary. So it's good for him.
Looking at this Jonathan Kuminga's night just quickly, 4 of 13 in this.
But 8 rebounds.
But 8 rebounds. And you were wanting that. He had a game recently where he only had 1,
last
right?
night.
Okay. And that's why he stays on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
8. I had that circled on my piece.
Yeah. That's, I mean, Kuminga's 8 rebounding.
Yeah.
That 8 rebounds that's all, in a game like this tonight, that's huge. I mean, the Warriors won the battle of the rebounding battle largely because of JK and Dante.
Yeah, those two both had a team leading 8 rebounds.
Well, and also that little guy, number 30, had 7 before he left the game.
That little guy, I think I've heard of him, also was leading in assists with 7. Yeah,
assists. Steph,
38 points. Man, oh man, oh man. Okay, so I feel like we've come full circle in this show.
Yeah, it was a tough watch though tonight, man. That third quarter was fun to watch if you're a Warriors fan.
Yeah.
But
the rest of it?
Yeah, I mean, the last half of the first quarter, the entire second quarter, the fourth quarter was torture because you're close, and then you're like, no, not there.
All right, so Steph's left shoulder, an MRI tomorrow. Hopefully we will have more information soon. Thank you for watching Dubs Talk Live, presented by Fit Aid. Oh, goodness. All right, let's go to the comments. Some of you guys are wild tonight. Otis says Dante is turning into a reliable guy off the bench.
Yep.
We've got some speculation about what Steph's injury could be. I just don't know. Yeah, Jeff is asking how bad was Curry hurt? To be determined. We don't know. We only saw the
hurt
pain.
Enough for him to leave the game, which it's that he doesn't leave the game if he's a little nicked up.
Yeah. Young guys, what do we have on here? I don't know. I don't know. This stinks. Injuries.
Come on, Katie. I don't know.
My eyes go to some of these comments, and I can't tonight, guys.
Just can't, huh?
Thank you for commenting, but some of this stuff.
It's too wild to go ahead and promote,
Some of this stuff is wild. It's interesting to see, what fans are thinking, how they're feeling, what they're writing in all caps.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not sure I want to know.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Dalton Johnson is on the road trip, so stay tuned with, his timeline should be updated with the most up-to-the-minute stuff regarding Steph.
Yes.
Whereas Insider, of course, I know you can put it into context.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're not already following Dalton Johnson on Twitter or Instagram, do so.
Yeah, change that. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll be back very soon. Thanks for watching Dubs Talk.